Hey everybody, it's Aubree and I am back with another What's for Dinner video. This week I am sharing 5 recipes. Some are super easy and some were super delicious. They were all good, but there were a couple that I was like, whoa, this is really good. So I hope you'll stick around and see the things that I made for my family of 3 this week. All right, let's get into it. I'm just gonna start off by saying this whole chili situation started out kind of rough and it didn't end that great either. I mean, the chili was edible, but I had issues. So I'm starting off by chopping up 1 onion to cook in a pot. Now, my intention was to make a double batch of chili, but for about 10 minutes there, I thought I didn't have any chili powder, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to make with onion and ground beef that I was cooking. And I could have made some spaghetti, but I wasn't really in the mood for spaghetti, and I was really wanting chili. And then I remembered that I poured my entire bottle of chili powder into my spice jars that my husband got me for Christmas. So anyway, once I realized that, I was back on the move to make some chili. But the problem was, I guess I wasn't thinking straight because I ended up adding water. And I don't know if I usually add water, but I definitely added water this time. Way too much water. I've made chili hundreds of times before, so I don't know why I did that. And I ended up having to add like 2 extra cans of tomato sauce to make up for all the water. I thought I had tomato paste. I didn't, and you know, this whole thing just kind of, it wasn't my greatest chili I've ever made, I will say that. And that's okay, because when I have it later in the week, I doctor it up and make it really good. So I cook my onion for a little bit, just trying to soften it before adding the ground beef to it. I don't like that raw onion taste I don't like raw onions unless it's like salsa. So anyway, I add 2 pounds of ground beef, then I add some salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, and I'm just using the meat masher tool to mix it all together and chop up that ground beef. Once I am finished cooking the ground beef, I am going to add a large can of pinto beans and a can of kidney beans that have been rinsed and drained to the meat and onions. I'm also going to add 2 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce and 2, I think like 14.5-ounce cans of diced tomatoes. And then you are going to see where I seriously mess up. And that is when I add a large can of water, like the pinto bean can. I filled that up with water and added it to the pot. I don't know why I did this. I will say, usually I make my chili in the crock pot. It's usually thicker and I add some water, but I think I just messed up and added way too much water this time. I end up adding about 3 tablespoons worth of chili powder to the chili. Okay, now that I'm editing this and watching all of the video footage, I realize what I did. I added a second can of water. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, I don't even know what I was doing on Sunday when I was cooking this chili. Why would I add a second can of water? I don't even know. Y'all, it was just a hot mess. We had some chili soup going on right here. It turned out okay. Because my pot is so full, I end up taking some of the chili out and putting it into a smaller pot just so I can continue to cook all of it. As you can tell, I have added some tomato sauce to it to try and thicken it up, but it just didn't work that well. We served this over rice and topped it with sour cream and shredded cheddar cheese. I'm starting out by preheating my oven to 350 degrees, and then I'm taking a bag of small baby white and red potatoes and cutting them up into quarters. Then I am going to take some baby carrots and slice them in half vertically so I have like long-ish carrots. And I'm putting them in a bowl because the idea was to mix it all together with the seasonings and some olive oil and then put it on the pan. The bowl just got too full, so I end up spreading the carrots and potatoes out on the sheet pan, and I just drizzle olive oil over the top, add some salt, pepper, and some garlic powder, and then I put it in the oven for about 30-35 minutes. I'm just looking for the potatoes to be roasted and soft, and also the carrots to be fork tender. This was so good. It was my favorite dish that I made this week. I mean, the chicken was good too that I made with this dinner, but the potatoes and carrots was my favorite thing of all week. It was so good. Now I'm getting started on the chicken by cooking up some bacon, and I'm just going to cook it up, and when it is finished cooking, I'm going to set it to the side. I put it on a plate in the microwave just to let it rest. So now I am taking some flour and adding some salt, pepper, and garlic powder to the flour mixture, and I am just going to stir that up. And I am going to take my thinly cut chicken breasts, and I am just going to make sure that my chicken is covered in the flour mixture before adding it to the frying pan to cook it. I added a half a stick of butter to the already in the pan bacon grease, and then I added a little bit of olive oil just to make sure that there was enough grease in the pan. When the oil was hot, I added the floured chicken to the pan, and I know that it is hot enough because you can tell around the chicken that it's already starting to sizzle. If it doesn't react when you put the chicken in, it is not hot enough. Once I had finished cooking all of my chicken, I removed the leftover grease from the pan, leaving behind just these brown bits. And then I added another stick of butter to cook the roux. So I'm just mixing the butter up as it melts with the brown bits that were left. And then I am going to add in some flour. I'm going to mix that up until it's well combined and thick. And then I'm going to add my chicken stock and beef bouillon. Once that is well combined, I'm going to add some milk, stir it, and let it sit to simmer to become thick. Once the gravy has thickened, I add the chicken back in and sprinkle the bacon that I had cut up over the top. This is what the potatoes and carrot looked like when they came out of the oven, and this is what the chicken looked like when it was all done cooking. I also baked up some biscuits to eat on the side. This was my favorite dinner of the week. It was the very best thing I've made in a while. So tonight we're having shepherd's pie, and it is something that we really all enjoy eating. It's a very simple meal, but it's really good. So the high school that my husband and I went to would serve shepherd's pie regularly, and it was always like one of the favorites that they would serve. So this is a very similar way that they made it. I mean, I graduated in 2005, so it was a long time ago since I've had it. But this is similar to what I can remember. It's not nearly as good as the way that they made it, but it's very similar. So I just cut up 4 russet potatoes into like bite-sized pieces, or not bite-sized, but like small chunks, and put them in a pot to boil so I can make the mashed potatoes. Now I am browning up a pound of ground beef. I wish I would have browned up 2 pounds because it just didn't feel like there was enough meat compared to all the potatoes that there was. But it was definitely enough meal for everybody. We even had a lot of leftovers, so I just wish there was more meat with the potatoes. So now I am going to use my meat masher and cut up the ground beef and add some salt, pepper, and garlic powder. And I also add some onion powder because I didn't cut up an onion this time. Actually, I don't think I ever cut up an onion when I make shepherd's pie. I usually cut up an onion when I make ground beef and cook it together, but not for shepherd's pie. Once the ground beef is cooked, I'm going to put it into a baking dish, and I am going to pour a can of corn into the same frying pan to get all those little yummy bits left over from the ground beef. And this is just, you don't have to do it. You can just pour the corn right on top of the ground beef and it'll warm up in the oven. But sometimes I like to do this, just put it in the frying pan and just brown it up a little bit. I think it just adds that little bit of extra flavor. So I am just taking a block of sharp cheddar cheese and I am shredding it over a bowl. I recently started doing this and I didn't know why I wasn't doing it before, but my microplane goes flat and I was like, I could just put that over a bowl. So that's what I did. Once the corn is browned up a little bit, I pour it over the ground beef, and then I get started making my mashed potatoes, and that I'm going to cover the corn and ground beef with the mashed potatoes. Once my potatoes are done cooking, I drain them and I add about a half a stick of butter to my potatoes, as well as some salt, pepper, and a little bit of milk. Now, my potato masher, or whatever this thing is called, it broke. So I ended up having to throw it away and use my meat masher to mash up my potatoes. And this actually works a little bit better than the potato thing, but it was dirty. So anyway, I cleaned it off and used it to mash my potatoes up. Now I know I could have used my mixer, but I didn't want to mess up my pot, and I didn't want to put it in another bowl and dirty that up. So I just made them the way they were. Now, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they make their shepherd's pie by adding A1 steak sauce or Worcestershire sauce. I couldn't remember which one it was, but they added one of those two to their mashed potatoes, and it gives it a little bit of a different flavor, and I was like, that sounds like a good idea. But my A1 steak sauce was kind of running out, so I only got a little bit in there, and honestly, I couldn't even really taste it. I wish I had more. I'm gonna have to talk to my sister-in-law and see. Once I'm finished cooking my mashed potatoes, I spread them over the corned meat layers and just make sure it's evenly dispersed. And then I'm going to add my shredded cheddar cheese. Now, I did not shred the entire block of cheddar cheese. I shredded about half of it. And I am not going to cover this entire dish with cheese, only like I'd say 80% of it, because my son doesn't really care for cheese and he usually just picks the cheese off when I make it this way. So I figured I would just not put it on a portion of the mashed potatoes so that he could have it the way he likes it. This is how the shepherd's pie looks when it comes out of the oven. Look at that, just good old cheese. And I am just gonna serve the shepherd's pie with a biscuit. Sometimes we do crescent rolls. These are left over from the night before, and it was a perfectly easy, simple dinner. Alright, chili night take 2. I am putting on a pot of water to boil, and then I am emptying the bag of leftover chili into another pot and heating it up. Once it is heated up, I am going to season it to make it taste a lot better. I end up adding like half a spice jar worth of chili powder, maybe just a little bit too much, but it didn't matter. It was still really good. I also added more salt and more pepper, and the chili this night was so good. It was thick. It was everything I wanted it to be the first night I made chili. So once I am done cooking my spaghetti noodles, I drain them, and it's just kind of like spaghetti. You put the noodles in a bowl, you cover it with the chili, and then we topped it with sour cream and cheddar cheese. And that's it. We also made some garlic knots on the side, and that is how we ate our chili the second time. On Friday night, me and my family, which is my husband and my son, went out to Tasty's, which is a burger place we have here in town. And my son got to pick because he made AR All-Stars and Reflex All-Stars, which is like their reading and math program. We were both so proud of him, and he got to pick what we were having for dinner, or where we went to dinner that night. So that's where he picked. And he had a cheeseburger, just plain cheese and ketchup with tater tots. I had a patty melt with fries, and my husband had, I don't remember what he had. Some special kind of burger with like loaded fries, basically. Chili, cheese, jalapenos. Which I ate some of those because that's what I really wanted, and I should have just got those instead because they were so good. So tonight we are having the Stouffer's Classics Cheeseburger Bake. I have never tried it. I am going to show you what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. I put it in there frozen at 375 degrees for 75 minutes. Was it 375? I'm just following the directions on the side of the box. Let's see. Yep, 375 for 75 minutes. And then with that, we're gonna have some garlic knots. I did not cook anything really. I just put it in the oven from frozen. So this was a super easy dinner to put together. But sometimes, you know, that's okay. You can have dinners like this every once in a while. It's not a big deal. As long as you're feeding your family, that's all that matters. This turned out good. The noodles, in my opinion, were a little bit too mushy. The garlic knots were amazing, but overall it was a good, decent dinner. I think I could have made this myself and it would have tasted better. What mattered most was that my son and my husband enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner. If you liked it, please consider giving this video a like and joining my YouTube family. I would love to have you here. Remember to say hi in the comments. I would love to say hi back. Bye!